Have you ever wondered why certain outcomes seem predetermined? Why your best intentions lead to someone else's victory? Why your transparency becomes their advantage? The uncomfortable truth is this: you are not directing your own story. You are merely a character in someone else's script. But here lies the paradox. While most people spend their lives as unwitting actors, a chosen few learn to become the directors. The mechanics of influence operate beneath conscious awareness, weaving through conversations, shaping decisions, and molding destinies with surgical precision. Every spontaneous choice you believe you've made, every authentic emotion you think you've expressed, every strategic move you assume was yours, all may be the result of invisible architecture built by minds that understand the game you don't even know exists. This is not conspiracy theory. This is human nature. Power gravitates toward those who comprehend the hidden laws governing social interaction, those who can read the unwritten rules while others stumble blindly through predetermined patterns. The question isn't whether manipulation exists. It's whether you'll remain its victim or become its master. The puppet show of daily life. Consider your typical day, the news you consume, the conversations you engage in, the purchases you make, the opinions you form. How many originated from your independent analysis versus subtle conditioning? The modern world operates as a vast theater where psychological levers are pulled by unseen hands, creating the illusion of choice while channeling behavior toward predetermined outcomes. Your predictability is someone else's profit. Your emotional reactions are their strategic advantage. Your transparent motivations become their tactical intelligence. When you operate with complete openness, broadcasting intentions and revealing vulnerabilities, you hand adversaries the blueprint for your own manipulation. The masters of this game understand that control isn't seized through force. It's acquired through finesse. They don't demand compliance. They create conditions where compliance feels like personal choice. They don't impose their will. They make their objectives appear to be your own ideas. This is influence in its most sophisticated form. Machiavelli recognized that princes must master the art of appearing one way while being another. This principle extends beyond politics into every arena where humans interact. The person who reveals everything controls nothing. The person who conceals strategically controls everything. Your secrets are your sovereignty. The information economy. In today's hyper-connected world, data is the new gold, and you're the mine. Every digital footprint, every casual conversation, every moment of transparency generates intelligence that feeds algorithms designed to predict and influence your behavior. You're not using free platforms. You're the product being packaged and sold. Your search history reveals your insecurities. Your social media activity exposes your psychological triggers. Your purchasing patterns demonstrate your decision-making vulnerabilities. This information flows to entities that understand human psychology better than you understand yourself, creating feedback loops that shape your choices while maintaining the illusion of independence. The greatest manipulation occurs when the target believes they're making autonomous decisions. Modern influence operations don't feel like persuasion. They feel like self-discovery. You're led to conclusions so gradually that you believe you've arrived at them through your own reasoning. This is psychological surgery performed without anesthesia. Those who profit from your transparency have invested billions in understanding the precise moments when you're most susceptible to influence. They know your weakness cycles, your emotional patterns, your decision-making blind spots. While you're focused on living your life, they're studying the mechanics of how you live it. The anatomy of strategic deception. Professional manipulators operate through layered strategies that would make Machiavelli proud. They begin by establishing rapport, creating the feeling of mutual understanding and shared interests. This foundation of false intimacy becomes the platform for increasingly sophisticated influence operations. The second phase involves information harvesting. Through seemingly innocent conversations and casual inquiries, they map your psychological landscape. What motivates you? What frightens you? What validates you? Every piece of intelligence becomes ammunition for future influence campaigns. Phase 3 introduces control dependency. They position themselves as sources of valuable insight, emotional support, or practical assistance. You begin to rely on their input for decisions, gradually surrendering your analytical autonomy while believing you're benefiting from their guidance. The final phase is strategic deployment. With rapport established, intelligence gathered, and dependency created, they can now influence major decisions while maintaining plausible deniability. You make choices that serve their interests while believing you're serving your own. The beauty of the system lies in its invisibility. Victims thank their manipulators for the privilege of being influenced. They defend the very people who exploit them because the manipulation feels like mentorship, the control feels like care, and the exploitation feels like exchange. The psychology of vulnerability. Humans are wired for transparency. We crave connection, understanding, and validation. These natural impulses become strategic vulnerabilities when weaponized by those who understand behavioral psychology. Your need to be heard becomes their intelligence-gathering operation. The modern cult of authenticity plays directly into manipulator hands. Social media encourages radical transparency, selling the myth that revealing everything about yourself is somehow liberating. In reality, this openness creates detailed psychological profiles that sophisticated operators use to design targeted influence campaigns. Consider how your emotional state affects your decision-making. When you're stressed, lonely, or uncertain, your critical thinking capabilities diminish while your susceptibility to influence increases. Skilled manipulators create these emotional states deliberately, then offer solutions that serve their agenda while appearing to serve yours. Your cognitive biases are their strategic advantages. Confirmation bias makes you seek information that supports pre-existing beliefs. Availability bias makes recent or dramatic information seem more important than it actually is. Authority bias makes you defer to perceived experts. Each bias is a lever that can be pulled by those who understand the machinery of human judgment. The Machiavellian mindset. To transform from victim to victor requires adopting what Machiavelli called virtue, the ability to adapt your approach to circumstances while maintaining focus on long-term objectives. This means developing comfort with strategic ambiguity, calculated concealment, and tactical misdirection. The first principle is information asymmetry. Know more about others than they know about you. Study their patterns, motivations, and weaknesses while revealing minimal intelligence about your own. This creates a strategic advantage that compounds over time. The second principle is emotional detachment. Your feelings are valuable intelligence that should not be broadcast freely. When others can predict your emotional responses, they can engineer situations that trigger desired reactions. Master your emotional display, and you master a crucial element of interpersonal power. The third principle is strategic patience. Most people operate on immediate feedback loops, seeking instant gratification and immediate validation. This impatience makes them vulnerable to those who can delay gratification while executing longer-term strategies. Time becomes your ally when you learn to think beyond immediate circumstances. The fourth principle is controlled revelation. Share information strategically, timing disclosures for maximum impact while protecting core intelligence. What you don't say often matters more than what you do say. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates power. The art of counter-manipulation. Recognizing manipulation is the first step toward immunity. Watch for patterns in how others gather information about you. Notice when conversations consistently steer toward your personal details, your future plans, or your current challenges. These may be intelligence-gathering operations disguised as friendly interest. Pay attention to emotional manipulation tactics. Does someone consistently create urgency around decisions? Do they appeal to your ego, your fears, or your sense of obligation in ways that seem calculated? Are they positioning themselves as the solution to problems they are helping to define? Observe information flow patterns. Are you always the one sharing while they remain mysterious? Do they deflect personal questions while encouraging you to be open? This asymmetry indicates a strategic relationship rather than an authentic one. Test their reactions to your boundaries. Authentic relationships respect limits and boundaries. Manipulative relationships involve consistent pressure to override your comfort zones, often accompanied by guilt or subtle coercion when you resist. The most sophisticated defense against manipulation is becoming skilled at manipulation yourself. This doesn't mean becoming unethical. It means understanding the techniques so thoroughly that you can recognize them instantly and deploy counter-strategies when necessary. The player's transformation. Becoming the player requires fundamental shifts in how you approach information, relationships, and decision-making. You must develop what intelligence professionals call operational security, protecting your thoughts, plans, and vulnerabilities from exploitation. Start by conducting a personal intelligence audit. What information about yourself is publicly available? What patterns in your behavior could someone use to predict your actions? What emotional triggers could adversaries exploit? This assessment reveals your current vulnerability profile. Develop multiple personas for different contexts. Your professional identity, your social personality, and your private self should operate as distinct entities with separate information security protocols. This compartmentalization prevents any single relationship from accessing your complete psychological profile. Practice strategic ambiguity in your communications. Instead of direct answers to probing questions, develop skills in deflection, redirection, and controlled revelation. Master the art of saying much while revealing little, of appearing open while remaining protected. Cultivate multiple information sources for important decisions. Never rely on single sources of intelligence, especially from individuals who might benefit from influencing your choices. Cross-reference information, seek contrary perspectives, and trust your own analysis over external guidance. The power of calculated mystique. Mystery is one of the most potent tools in the player's arsenal. When others cannot fully understand your motivations, predict your actions, or access your inner world, they cannot manipulate you effectively. Cultivate an aura of controlled unpredictability. Your private thoughts should remain private. Resist the modern pressure to share every insight, emotion, or experience. Your inner world is your strategic sanctuary. Protect it with the same vigilance that banks protect the vaults. Learn to speak in layers. Develop communication skills that allow you to convey different meanings to different audiences simultaneously. Surface meaning for casual observers, deeper meaning for allies, and hidden meaning for those who truly understand the game. Time your revelations strategically. Information released at the right moment can shift power dynamics, change perceptions, or alter outcomes. Information released carelessly or prematurely loses its strategic value and may even damage your position. Remember that in the information age, attention is the most valuable currency. Those who can capture and direct attention wield enormous influence. Learn to generate curiosity without satisfying it completely, to create interest without revealing everything that creates that interest. The strategic mindset. Players think in systems while pawns think in moments. Every interaction is part of a larger pattern. Every relationship part of a broader network. Every decision part of an extended strategy. Develop the ability to see connections that others miss and patterns that others ignore. Study power dynamics in every situation. Who holds real influence? Who benefits from current arrangements? Who has information others need? Understanding this dynamic allows you to position yourself advantageously rather than accidentally. Develop skills in human psychology that rival those of professional manipulators. Understand cognitive biases, emotional triggers, and decision-making patterns. This knowledge protects you from exploitation while enabling you to influence outcomes when necessary. Practice scenario planning for important situations. Consider multiple possible outcomes and prepare responses for each. This mental preparation allows you to respond strategically rather than reactively when circumstances change unexpectedly. Maintain operational flexibility. The ability to adapt your approach based on changing circumstances separates successful strategists from rigid thinkers. Your plans should be firm enough to provide direction, but flexible enough to accommodate new information. The network effect. Players understand that individual power is limited. Network power is exponential. Build relationships with other players who understand the game. These alliances multiply your capabilities while providing protection against sophisticated adversaries. Cultivate sources of information in different domains. Knowledge from diverse fields often reveals patterns and opportunities that specialists miss. Your network should span industries, ideologies, and social strata to provide maximum strategic intelligence. develop relationships with people at different levels of various hierarchies. Assistants often know more about decision makers than the decision makers reveal publicly. Mid-level managers understand operational realities that executives miss. Frontline workers see patterns that data analysts overlook. Practice strategic reciprocity in your relationships. Provide value to your network before you need value from them. This creates obligations and goodwill that can be leveraged when necessary, while building a reputation for reliability that attracts other valuable connections. Remember that information wants to flow to those who can protect it and use it effectively. Demonstrate discretion with sensitive intelligence, and you'll find that people begin sharing more valuable intelligence with you. Your reputation for trustworthiness becomes a strategic asset. The long game. Most manipulation operates on short-term cycles because most people think in short-term cycles. Developing long-term strategic thinking provides enormous advantages over those trapped in immediate response patterns. Think in years and decades while others think in days and weeks. Build systems that generate sustainable advantages rather than pursuing individual victories. A single manipulation might win a battle, but systematic thinking wins wars. Focus on creating conditions that favor your long-term success rather than immediate gratification. Invest in capabilities that appreciate over time. Skills, knowledge, relationships, and reputation compound like interest when developed consistently. These investments protect you from manipulation while providing platforms for influencing others. Understand that power dynamics shift constantly. Today's manipulator might be tomorrow's victim. Today's victim might be tomorrow's player. Maintain flexibility in your alliances and be prepared to adapt your strategies as circumstances evolve. Document patterns you observe in human behavior, power dynamics, and manipulation techniques. This intelligence becomes more valuable over time as you recognize recurring patterns and can predict outcomes with increasing accuracy. The ethical framework. Becoming a player doesn't require abandoning ethics. It requires developing more sophisticated ethics. The choice isn't between being manipulated and becoming evil. It's between being helpless and being strategic about how you help yourself and others. Use your knowledge to protect others from manipulation while advancing your own legitimate interests. This creates positive sum outcomes where your success doesn't require others' failure. Sustainable power comes from creating value, not just extracting it. Distinguish between defensive and offensive applications of strategic thinking. Protecting yourself from manipulation is always justified. Using manipulation to exploit others requires careful ethical consideration and should serve legitimate purposes. Remember that power brings responsibility. As you develop capabilities to influence outcomes and resist manipulation, use these abilities to create better systems rather than just better outcomes for yourself. Leave the game better than you found it. The highest level of player consciousness involves helping others develop their own strategic thinking abilities. This creates a network of capable allies while raising the overall level of game sophistication, making crude manipulation techniques less effective across the board. The transformation process. Becoming a player is not an overnight transformation. It's a gradual evolution that requires consistent practice and continuous learning. Start by implementing small changes in how you handle information. relationships, and decisions. Begin with the information discipline. Before sharing anything significant about yourself, ask who benefits from that information and how it might be used. Develop the habit of strategic thinking before strategic acting. Practice reading people more carefully. Notice patterns in how they gather information, how they frame discussions, how they respond to different types of statements. This observational practice builds the intuitive skills necessary for recognizing manipulation attempts. Develop your own influence capabilities through ethical practice. Learn to frame discussions in ways that highlight mutual benefits, to time communications for maximum impact, to build rapport while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Test your growing capabilities in low-stakes situations before applying them to high-stakes circumstances. Practice strategic communication with strangers. Experiment with different personas in various contexts. Refine your techniques through experience. The new reality. Once you understand the game, you cannot unsee it. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to observe power dynamics, information flow, and influence attempts. This awareness transforms you from unconscious participant to conscious strategist. Your relationships will change as you become less manipulable and more strategic. Some people will be attracted to your new capabilities. Others will be frustrated by their inability to influence you as easily as before. These reactions provide valuable intelligence about people's true intentions. You'll develop increased respect for other skilled players while losing patience with obvious manipulation attempts. The game becomes more interesting as you recognize the sophistication of worthy opponents and the crudeness of amateur efforts. Your decision-making process will become more complex but more effective. Instead of reacting to immediate circumstances, you'll consider longer-term implications, multiple perspectives, and strategic positioning. This leads to better outcomes, but requires more mental energy. The knowledge that you're actively shaping outcomes rather than just experiencing them creates a profound shift in personal agency. You begin to see yourself as an author of your story rather than just a character in someone else's narrative. The master's perspective. At the highest levels of strategic thinking, the distinction between player and game begins to blur. You're not just participating in existing systems, you're helping to design the systems themselves. This is where true power resides, in the ability to shape the rules rather than just play by them. Master players understand that the greatest victories are invisible ones. When you can achieve your objectives while others believe they achieve theirs, you've reached the pinnacle of strategic sophistication. Everyone wins, but you win more. The ultimate manipulation is making manipulation unnecessary. When you can create conditions where others' self-interest aligns with your objectives, you achieve influence without coercion, control without conflict, and power without resentment. Remember that mastery is not a destination, but a continuous journey. The game evolves, new players emerge, and strategies that worked yesterday may fail tomorrow. Maintain intellectual humility while developing strategic confidence. Your greatest achievement as a player will not be any single victory, but the transformation of your entire approach to life. You'll move through the world with the quiet confidence of someone who understands the rules, the patience of someone who can wait for optimal timing. and the wisdom of someone who knows when to act and when to refrain from action. You now stand at a crossroads that most people never recognize exists, and you can return to unconscious participation in systems designed by others, comfortable, and the illusion of autonomy while being systematically influenced and controlled. Or you can begin the challenging but rewarding journey towards strategic consciousness. The path of the player requires sacrifice. You must give up the comfort of naive trust, the simplicity of emotional transparency, and the luxury of thoughtless reaction. In return, you gain something far more valuable: genuine agency in your own life. This knowledge comes with responsibility. Use it wisely, ethically, and strategically. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Challenge systems that exploit the vulnerable, and work toward a world where strategic thinking is widely understood rather than concentrated among a few. The game continues whether you play consciously or unconsciously. The manipulation proceeds whether you recognize it or remain oblivious. The only question is whether you'll spend your life as a piece on someone else's board or as a player, directing your own moves. Choose carefully. Once you see the matrix of influence that shapes human behavior, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand the techniques that manipulate consciousness, you cannot return to unconsciousness. Once you become a player, you bear the responsibility that comes with power. The world needs more conscious players. People who understand the game well enough to play it ethically, strategically, and effectively. Your transformation from manipulator to manipulator, from victim to victor, from pawn to player, contributes to the evolution of human consciousness itself. Begin today. Start small. Think strategically. Protect your information. Observe power dynamics. Build your network. Develop your capabilities. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the transformation from being played to becoming the player begins with a single decision. Make that decision now. Your future self will thank you for the courage to see clearly, the wisdom to act strategically, and the determination to master the most important game of all, the game of life itself. The board is set, the pieces are in motion, and your move awaits. Play wisely.